Welcome back to another TA Tech News Weekly. I'm your host, TA Tech. We're here with Michael Pepper. Michael, did you know you are the first person to join season 3? Welcome,
Awesome.
man. Welcome, man. How you doing? How you doing? What's going on?
Doing well. Do you do a certain number per season or is it just like a
Nah, man. You know what? I still don't know. I mean, I think keeping the seasons short and sweet is is better for the organization and you know attention span for some people, including myself, trying to organize everything into different folders and stuff. So that's why I keep it short. But if you guys want season 3 to be a little bit longer, let me know in the comments, and I will definitely do that. We discussed very briefly. I thought since you love to do photography and stuff, I thought you were the perfect person for this. First of all, how did you get into photography, and how long have you been in photography?
you want the nickel story or the $5 story?
Oh, Jesus.
I take it you know what that means.
Yes, I
Okay,
do.
so
Yes, I do.
so so I'll try to keep it brief, but basically I was going to college and my original major was criminal justice.
Oh, okay.
I was going through the community college I went to has what they call the 3+1 program. So basically, you go the first 3 years paying at the community college price, and then your last year would be at university price, so you can save money, but you end up with like a full degree if you do that.
Right.
Well, I got 3 years in and decided, well, it was kind of decided for me. So that was around 2010, 2011,
Oh, okay.
and I live in Michigan for people that don't know, and the Michigan State Police at the time decided that they were going to get rid of any funding for training for police and anything like that. So I was like, well, I guess if I'm going to I don't want to end up going further into a degree I can't use anyways, and who knows how long before, because the problem is that's one of those things like if you kind of don't get into it right away and you get older, it's harder to go into, you lose your energy and things like that. So I was thinking about, okay, well, what could I go into that I actually enjoy? I had taken a photo 101 class and I
Right.
really liked it. So, and also being someone who's somewhat spiritual, I prayed about it and was guided kind of to the direction of like, hey, maybe you should go into photography. So
Yeah.
I ended up getting my photography. It's called a certification because you don't really get a degree in it in the
Mm.
sense of things. But I completed all the photo classes and got that done um, in 2013, and then just since then I've been mostly. It's funny. I hardly ever actually use a regular camera.
Mm.
I find like I enjoy the idea that I know that my phones get the look that they do, and
Yep.
I understand like each device has its own look. And
Mhm.
so some devices I just kind of leave alone. Other devices I'll edit a little bit. And obviously that will be part of our discussion we can get into. Um, my
Yeah, definitely.
parents my parents are huge into photography. I mean, they had a dark room and like a where they would do all the chemicals and stuff actually in their
Mhm.
trailer. And of course, now you get in trouble because, they would just dump the chemicals down the
Yeah.
sink. But of course, you think about this is in the 70s, and you didn't
Yeah.
really think about the environment, and they didn't really think about, that stuff. So you just threw it, and you didn't think about like if it would eat away at the piping or anything. So you just kind of dumped it. And of course, that was black and white.
Right.
The
Right.
minute you had to do color, then you sent into like a professional studio, like a professional lab to
Yep.
have like Kodak or somebody do it because it's just way more complicated.
Right.
Um, but we would joke that my mom is the paparazzi
Ah!
because she's
Damn.
always the one snapping photos at every event, and it's like I don't want my photo taken. Too bad. Like
Yep.
I
That's
don't even
me.
know the last time I've seen either one of them use a regular camera either. I mean, they've used their iPhones since
Dude,
a long time now.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I used a camera once or twice in my life. And I mean, that was before I even got a cell phone. But then I got a cell phone, and we all. I mean, yeah. I mean, even back then, cameras weren't that great on cell phones, but time they just keep getting better and better and better. And it's like, honestly, why the hell would you buy a camera if your phone does just as great? I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that cameras have better quality and more settings and accessories like that. So like I get it, but you don't need to go all out. I'd say this all the time. You do not need to go all out if you're starting a YouTube channel or whatever. I mean, listen, Solange can attest because I've taken pictures of her and she's always like so surprised at how they come out. And it's like with cameras and this is just me speaking. I hope I don't offend you, Michael, but with a camera, with a phone camera, it's basically okay. You open the app, click the thing to focus, make sure it's in focus, autofocus, or and shoot. Like that's it. With other cameras, you gotta make sure this setting's on, that setting's on, and like I was saying, I've taken pictures of Solange and she's just like, what the hell? They're so good. Michael, if you want to talk about like what your thoughts are on mobile photography versus a camera photography, and what you think is good for 2024.
So I'll do a quick little rundown of kind of my thoughts, like the pros and cons of both. So with a
Hmm.
smartphone, obviously we have things where we have, um, multiple lenses on the back of our devices. Here I have a OnePlus 12, and it's got three lenses plus the flash, and so easy to switch. Where if you're using a regular camera, you may have something like this, which is a 55 to 210 millimeter. I mean, you're talking about something like that, or it goes from that all the way to. So one of the things about it is space. So
Right.
the pro, the pro of a smartphone is you have multiple lenses on there. You can easily switch in between, and it's you can throw it in your pocket. For someone
Right.
like me who has multiple phones, like three or four on them at a time, sometimes I can take advantage of the different lenses between the different devices. I can take advantage of the different sensors between the different devices. Now, the downside, or I'll say the one thing about when you're using a regular camera, any lens you put on there, you get advantage of the same sensor. So your sensor size is going to be, so if you have a nice full frame, large, like 1 inch sensor or bigger on your camera, and you throw a lens on there, you're going to get advantage of the size of that and the light the whole entire time. Where with your phone, you're dealing with these tiny sensors.
Yeah.
So in lower light, it's much more difficult. So, if you're taking a lot of street photography and like low light stuff, and you need to snap photos really fast and you need to be able to speed up your shutter speed and not have a bunch of noise, you're probably carrying
Mhm.
a regular camera. You're going to have to invest in glass. I mean, you have something like that that's got, I mean, I bought this lens and this lens here both came with my Sony A6100.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
lens I'm using on it right now is a 30 millimeter, I think f1.8, and it's one that was given to me by a fellow content creator.
Mhm.
Um, and I really like it. I mean, you get the nice, really shallow depth of field there. I mean, that's something you don't. The quick focus and that nice, very shallow depth of field with that background blur is
Right.
something you don't necessarily get with a smartphone. I mean, they're pretty quick.
Mhm.
Obviously, like I said, this is a phone, and look, you got a little background blur there, right? That's a
That
pixel
is
fold,
awesome.
but it's not going to be quite the same as this in front of you. And you'll
Right.
notice it might not appear as quick, but the transition is really smooth, that like in and
Yes.
out.
Yes.
And that's not even
I do. I
including
do
if
appreciate
you're
that.
using a telephoto lens zooming in and out, that smooth transition you can get in there. Um, with smartphone cameras, you can get like jumps in frames in particular, but that's more with video. But if you're recording video and you're switching between lenses, you can get that really um, kind of not so pleasant jumping effect. And even on iPhones, that will happen if you switch fast enough. The other downside is in low light, usually what it will do is it will use the primary sensor and crop in. So even if you have a better sensor, a 3x on like a 15 Pro or a 5x on a 15 Pro Max,
Right.
it's more likely going to use your main sensor and crop in. So instead of being able
Yeah.
to take advantage of like a 48 megapixel sensor and have a like maybe a 5x telephoto on it and crop into one half, so you still have 24 megapixels, you're going to have maybe a 48 megapixel main sensor and end up with 4.8 megapixels because it crops in 10 times on that and
Right.
losing a lot of light. So, but the bonus is, this is really easy to learn to use.
Hmm.
I mean, you can do the
And
same thing with your regular camera, right? You can just pick it up, you can set it in auto mode, snap away. But you need to learn, like, you need to know, like, okay, um, for example, I trust the exposure on my A6100 in auto mode.
yeah.
It's pretty almost always close to accurate. And if I notice it's
Right.
off, I know how to, quickly switch to that. But if you're taking pictures of your kids and stuff, it's the same
Hmm.
reason why people are careful with what smartphone they choose. Because if
Yeah.
we all know, Samsung has issues with their shutter speed. So if you're,
Mhm.
although it's gotten better, I've been pretty surprised. If you have um, a moderate amount of light at night. Obviously, if you're in a pitch black room or a very dark room, you're not gonna get. And it depends on the movement. Every single phone, I can make an iPhone, a Pixel, a OnePlus. I can make any phone basically
Right.
blur. Even if you have a
Hmm.
pro mode and you go in there and you lock focus on the subject, if they're moving enough and you can't get enough light, it doesn't matter what you do. Because you can only bring your ISO, which is like the sensitivity to light, you can only bring that down so much to
Yeah.
remove noise. And if you turn it up so that you can speed up your shutter speed, then
Hmm.
you introduce noise, which is where we get that grain in the background, or you get like streaks in the black. Um, and same thing with video. We all seen people who record phone video, and you can tell that
Yeah.
you look at it on your TV and you get the streaks instead of like the nice pure solid black. You get tones of gray and you get some weird stuff. But for me, the reason why I still choose to, apart from the fact that it's annoying to have to take my camera off whatever the mount that it's on and take it out and about
Hmm.
and carry a
Hmm.
bunch of lenses, because you can get quick mounts where you can carry lenses across like a strap across my chest, so I could carry all three of them, like quickly mount and dismount them. Like it's not very
Right.
difficult. I can do it basically by memory. But
Right.
with carrying a phone, it's in your pocket. The other thing is sharing. Yeah, you can you could have your phone in your pocket and connect it to like Wi-Fi on like my camera. I can connect it either via Bluetooth or like Wi-Fi direct. Take photos that
Right.
would go to my phone, and I could send them to people. Like that's what I would do if I was professionally shooting. But using your phone, it's all backed up. I mean, just before the stream, we were talking about losing content. So if you think about it, unless you're out in the middle of nowhere where you don't really have a connection or you have limited amount of data, and so you got to wait until you get on Wi-Fi or get home or whatever.
Hmm.
But even then, like you record on your phone, you get home, connects to your Wi-Fi, and it starts uploading to the cloud, or you can use AirDrop if you're talking about iPhone to a Mac or to an iPad or whatever to back up. Quick share. I actually have an application on my Mac that it is called NearDrop,
Hmm.
and
I heard about
it
that one.
lets it lets you use quick share from an Android device to a Mac. Now you can't do the other way around yet, but like, if people are, maybe they like a Mac because they want the battery life, but they prefer an Android phone, the
Right.
ability to, do that. Or husband and wife, maybe the husband uses an iPhone and the wife uses an Android or vice versa, and they want to be able to share with each other. Being able to do that, and you can have applications sync up. If you're using a Windows computer, iCloud syncs up now, and you can choose the folder to put it into. There's all sorts of methods that make it
Yep.
just such a. And then as far as editing applications, instead of having to install like Photoshop and pay so
Right.
much per month, and you're paying out literally maybe hundreds of dollars a year,
Dude,
you
it's.
might you can find free applications. So a lot of what I do is just within like the Photos app itself, or
Mm-hmm.
like I'm whether you're talking about Google Photos or Apple's Photos app,
Mm-hmm.
because it's simple, basic adjustments of highlights and shadows and adding in detail. Or you can install something like I will show you. You can install something like Snapseed and go in,
Oh yeah.
and you can bring in. So let's say I have this photo of a flower I took earlier today.
Ooh, that's
And
beautiful.
so one thing I might do here is go into tools, go to tune image real quick. See if I can try to get that. And I'm going to go to highlights, and I'm going to bring the highlights down just a little bit. And then I'm going to go to shadows, and I'm going to turn those up just a little bit in the background there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to save that image. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to details, and I'm going to bring up the structure a little bit on it. And then, oop, I went into our stream. Um, I'm going to go in, I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to go tools. I'm going to make a vignette, and I'm going to adjust that just a little bit, vignette, and then I'm going to go into the inner brightness, bring that a little bit, kind of. I'm going to bring the strength of that out. Do something maybe kind of like that to just kind of change the contrast on it a little bit.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Actually, I don't like that. So let's say I don't want that. I can just go revert, and bring it back to the. I actually like how it came out of the camera, but I'm just showing for example.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to find. Let's see here. Something. Maybe this one. That might be a better idea. So this one has. I don't really like the way it's not really focused on this flower as much. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go and I'm going to bring the structure up on this. And then I'm going to go to vignette and I'm going to bring it on there. And I'm going to bring that.
See, with that,
So
you know,
now I've brought the focus in on that front flower. It's kind of hard to tell over camera.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then I can save it and it will create a copy. And
right.
now it's over in my Photos app and I have a copy of it. So I have the original here, and then I have the copy here, and it just simple things that you can do. I have a picture of my
Yeah,
son here holding this flower up to me, and it just got that focus right in on his hand and on his fingers and on the
that's
flower like that.
crazy.
And I could crop it like that if I wanted. Um,
That's crazy.
Normally I wouldn't show a picture of my son, but because he's blurred and whatnot, but like just the detail of like the focus on a flower like that. And my iPhone, I think
You know,
it's in the other room. But if you're using that, so with an iPhone, one of the tricks with an iPhone is one of the things they added with iOS 17
hmm
is when you are cropped in on a photo, you can hit to save. So if you just pinched in, you can just hit the crop button instead of having to then go to edit and then get back to that point. So if you're looking through photos and you're cropped in, you're like, well, I like that. Just hit crop and save it.
right.
So
Um, I'm going to. Actually, you gotta give me a minute because I want to share my screen, but somebody just called me and ruined everything.
I was like, "Where's Taylor? I can hear him."
Yeah, you gotta love it, man. People just, yeah. I don't. Let me see. All right, empty that. And now I'm gonna
So,
share
you
my
know, this
screen.
lens right here is a 3.5 to 5.6. That's the aperture, and it's a 16 to 50. And the thing is, like, I would need a lens that's wider than that in order to get
Right.
good quality out of it. And I don't want Inception. And the thing is the cost too. So one of the things I forgot to mention was, you know, the cost that you're going to spend on quality lenses to get a nice
Yeah.
wide open aperture, so you're taking advantage of the light and being able to have a fast quick shutter speed versus so.
So I want to show you three pictures I took of my friend um using my iPhone, and I personally think these pictures came out pretty good. I mean, this is, I don't know what the heck that was. I mean, this is straight from the camera. I mean, I think I adjusted the blur a little bit uh because it was too blurred on the hair. But I mean, for the most part, I think this was like, one of the best pictures. I also took this one, uh, and then I put a little bit of a filter. And I actually want to ask you: do you ever, instead of doing all the edits, like contrast and stuff like that, do you just uh put a filter on it and call it a day? Or do you go in and do things specifically?
So
And what do you think is best um to do on mobile?
I have never used a I've I've never been one to use like a preset type of thing like you're talking about.
Yeah,
Um, because I don't really care for them.
gotcha. I mean,
So,
I
oh yeah, I just realized you could see exactly everything I was doing just now. That's okay. My bad. So I'm just trying to show here with photos, with my
yep.
photos application. I'm going to open photos here. So this is a photo that I took. Let me. So this is a photo that I took, a panorama that I took couple weekends ago, the weekend before
Mhm.
Easter, with my
Oh,
iPhone.
okay.
And then here's just like a straight shot at that same area. Um,
Right.
so the one thing I'll point out with a smartphone, and it's hard to tell, is so right here you lose a lot of detail because the highlights, the reflections,
Yeah.
get really bright, and that's the one thing like I could have and it's windy out, so it's not like I could easily hold the focus on there and tune it in. But that,
Right.
and then my thumbnails that I shot for this video,
Ooh.
um, that was shot with my iPhone. Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
controlling the light. You know, I have a light
Right.
up here. Let's see here. My son, creepy hair.
That's awesome. Yeah,
How
I
about this
had
photo?
oh wow.
I mean, I've been able to control the light because I'm in my studio, you know, controlling some of the light with some of this stuff. But like,
Right.
um,
I think
you know,
this one, I want to show one more picture here.
oh, and here's a good one. You see,
Ooh,
like
that is,
it's detailed in the front, and then it just gets gradually blurrier as it goes off the back.
yeah, I like that actually. I like that a
Um,
lot.
Picture of my shoe, which everybody was like, "Oh, where'd you get those shoes from?" And I
So this is
posted my
another
Amazon
picture.
affiliate link.
So this is another picture that I took with my iPhone. And again, I mean, you can tell that it's a little bit blurry here, but I mean, for the most part, it came out pretty good. The leaves coming down on her, um, it kind of off focus, I guess. Uh, but I think this overall was a really good one. Um, I again, I think iPhone, it's really good. Now, what do you? I mean, I know
So
what your answer is gonna be.
this photo
This
that I
was,
have up
yep,
um is tricky because we all know how cameras do with reds.
right.
So I was pretty impressed, how it did pretty good
Ooh,
with that. Um
that's pretty cool.
and like just for contrast of things and like recording photo and like even recording like video clips with your phone, you can.
Yeah, yeah. What? And I feel like I already know the answer to this question, but what are your thoughts on? Let me get rid of that. What are your thoughts
How's
on?
that for a smartphone photo?
Ooh, whoa, whoa, whoa! Damn. See, you and Connor. I don't know if you know Tech Wiz Tech,
I do.
Connor O'Regan. You and Connor send me pictures that are this one. Pull that up. That's on what phone or what device?
Should be on my iPhone because it's in photos. Anything that's on
Dude,
here should be taken on my iPhone.
that's crazy to me. Okay, that's crazy to me. Connor sent me a picture, a selfie earlier, and he was like, "This is what the iPhone can do." I cannot pull off half of the crap you guys pull off. Like, I go in and I try my hardest, and it never comes out. And I even said this before. Half the photos and videos that we see on smartphone ads, okay, like Apple, Google, Samsung, all of those, they take amazing pictures,
There,
amazing videos.
that will be
And
easy.
then we try to replicate that. And we try the device ourselves, and it never comes out as good as when they do it.
So I
Because
shared my
honestly,
Photos app to you, and I'll show you another
oh,
one. This
okay.
is this is a thumbnail I shot using my iPhone, and got like the
Oh,
depth of
dude,
field on there. Like, look at my fingers. Like that's
dude,
so.
wow,
But yeah,
that's crazy.
how do you
But
get that? It's just practice.
like, dude, I can't. And even like trying to edit them, like I'm like, how do they do this? And I'm sure like a lot of it is lighting, and even Connor says it. A lot of it is lighting and stuff. But I could have the best lighting too, and it doesn't come out that way. And I'm just like, I mean, what kind of lighting are you using, man? You're not. Are you really using like a whole ass softbox and whatever? Like
Mm-mm.
what?
I use natural light or just the light that's in my room usually, and I
Y-
like will move things around and I'll turn off
Yeah.
lights. I bounce light
Mm.
off the
Hmm.
walls so you get soft light. I mean, because if I were to take my lights that I have, which I have Philips Hue desk lights, and turn it towards me, how much more like harsh that is. But when I bounce it
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
wall in front of me, it's much more subtle. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
the other thing by doing that is when I switch up to like this, you're not getting a ton of reflections. Obviously, I'm getting a reflection of the phone. And I could tilt it like this so then you don't get that.
Right.
Just a slight angle, and then whatever I do on the phone, you wouldn't get there. Or, if I'm in like taking pictures with And of course, the exposure is going to go whack on it, and it's going to be look like it's blown
Right.
out because that's the thing is I can't control the exposure through the app. So that would be the other reason why I might go back to doing something like this,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and I could. To answer your question from earlier, though, I don't use filters like
Hmm.
ever. Um, I won't even
Ooh.
use presets like
Oh.
other people's presets. I'll use
Really?
I'll use like vignette stuff, and I'll use
Yeah.
those
See, that's
those
what.
are actual like features. I
Well,
don't go in and like the only other thing I might do is if I had a bunch of photos that were like taken at a similar time in a similar area of like the
yeah.
same thing. Like let's say I took a bunch of pictures of daffodils like
Right.
in the same area or in the same time, and I got one of them edited, like the exposure adjusted and just right. I
Yeah.
might copy those edits to a bunch of other photos, which is something also that's been made a little bit easier within Apple Photos app lately, where you can edit and then you can hit copy edit and then you can select a bunch of
Ooh.
photos and hit paste edit and it will paste them all across. So you can do batch editing is what it's called. So then you don't have
Yep.
to do single
Yep.
similar like I don't know
Dude, I wish I.
if you're taking a picture of one of your friends or your girl or whatever, and you make an edit, and she's like, "Well, I really like that." You could just select a bunch of them, and apply it, and then you can go fine tune it
Yeah.
as well. So even if the lighting was slightly changed, you could go adjust it from there. But then you have a
Right.
good starting
Right.
point, so you don't have to just figure out what to
Dude.
do. Some of these applications
I
let you
honestly.
save. You can
Yep.
save those edits,
Yep.
and then you just go in and pull it in. But I don't tend to do that. I tend to
Right.
try to get it the best I can initially, and then just go in and adjust stuff slightly. Maybe a crop.
Right.
Um,
I honestly, dude, like, I don't know. I just feel like ever since I got the iPhone 10, I will not use the photo setting anymore. I am always in portrait, and no matter what, like, dude, I cannot go back. Like, I seriously cannot. Again, I think iPhone and Android both have, the regular setting for photos is great, but once you've tried portrait mode, it is a whole different ballgame, you know? Um,
this photo right here was taken on my $350 Nothing Phone 2A.
damn.
Some
Take
instances
me there.
it does just as well as in some instances the cameras on that thing do just as well as like my iPhone or any other phone would do for me. So
Ta-
um,
Take me there, please. Because honestly,
so
wow,
but
that's
yeah,
beautiful. That's another thing that I like to take pictures of is nature. I love going out to nature and taking
oh, let's see.
pictures. Dude, like, I don't know if I
It's just
have
crazy
any
to
here.
me, like
Oh
the
yeah.
simplest things of. I'll just leave the but like um,
What the
just
heck?
as blue as the skies were that day. The saturation and stuff is amazing, and I haven't edited any of these yet. I probably would go in and edit, but here, like, that's a panorama shot too.
That's
It's
beautiful. Beautiful, dude. Look at this picture. If you're following me, if you're my friend on Facebook, you'll probably already seen this picture.
it's a
But
picture of the courthouse where I got married.
oh wow.
But yeah, that's just like the HDR stuff. Oh, that's the other thing to consider too. Like, you know, some
Look at this
cameras
picture.
now you can get HDR and you can get, AI stuff that does all this stuff for you.
Hmm.
But with your
Hmm.
phone, you get the advantage of where it's combining multiple exposures.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have like HDR turned on, it essentially does it anyways. It's capturing a wider dynamic range by um, combining multiple exposures, and that's whether you have
Right.
HDR turned on or not. With an iPhone,
Right.
it's like there isn't really an HDR on or off mode. It's always going to capture, that kind of range, and then when you're at night, you get where it
It,
combines them as well. I
mhm.
can't think of what it's called now, where they announced like several years ago where they have like their version of HDR, but it's for like low light images.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and you get more
Hey,
detailed. It just
love.
combines resolutions. You don't have to worry about the noise then, and it does some really nice stuff.
Look at look at this picture of my dog. This is another one of those point and shoots. I mean, her butt area is a little blurred out, but like for the most part, it's like wow. Um, you know, and I've even taken pictures on my Pixel. I don't have any on here, but like, dude, actually, I think this one was ported from my Pixel. This one was like, wow. I mean, I think this is the only one that I'm like really, really shocked in um that it actually took a great picture. The blurredness, I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
Sunset the other day.
Oh wow.
It's just um I mean, so the one thing that Apple does really well that tricks your eye is they blur things gradually so that it creates more of a gradual fall off. So if it doesn't get a
Yeah.
cutout perfectly, it doesn't look
Right.
as obvious. So like if you look by your ear, you can definitely tell. In parts
Right.
of the jacket on the left hand side, you can see where it's kind of and when you have reflections or if like the the contrast between the background and the foreground is not enough,
Mm.
it won't get it. Or sometimes if it's really contrasty, it's more obvious because you have a black background with a really light foreground or vice versa, it will be really obvious. But they
Right.
like to do tricks where they just will intentionally make it so the cutoff is a little off and just allow it
Right.
to and it kind of blurs a little bit
I
in front
mean,
of where it should, which
mhm.
is sort of what it would be like if you were using a regular camera and
This
you
one,
just opened up the lens a little bit more to let in more
mhm.
light, and you're like, I don't care if it cuts off, you know, a little bit in front of the ears if I can get their face and everything in focus.
Right.
And it's
This
interesting
one,
to see that that's the decision though that Apple's made, but it gives it that more realistic approach as
this one
opposed
was
to the
another one.
very like cardboard cutout look like Pixels have been known for doing for a little
Yeah.
bit.
This one was another one that I really, really was like, wow.
And you even have the
Um,
dots. You even see like where there's the circles in the background, and
yeah,
then and
yeah,
it's or like the circle that becomes like an oval because it's elongated
mhm,
because of movement.
yeah,
That is, I mean, that's something that you would get with a um,
right,
regular camera as well, because obviously it is a regular camera. You're just dealing with
right.
smaller sensors, so there's certain things that are a little trickier um, and aren't going to happen because you're dealing with, sensors that
This
are much smaller.
this was one, and I'm not sure if it can tell me. Let me just see really quick. No, it doesn't tell you what filter, but this was one that I used, and I popped a filter on it and posted it on Facebook. Like, bruh, I feel like, and I mean, you're right. I think that a lot of them kind of destroy the picture. But a lot of them like kind of make them better. I feel. Um, and this was one of them for me anyway. Um, something like that just makes the whole quality of the picture so much better. Um,
You get so this gives me like that film feeling, like the sepia
yeah,
tone,
exactly.
but not as brown. You still have the
Right.
color. It's kind of got that like old style cinema, a little bit of a warmth to it.
Right.
Um, but it's funny to
Yo,
me when
Hugo.
people go, the iPhone is taking like these really warm photos
Oh,
and these
dude.
really yellow photos. It's like, dude, you're outside. It
Yeah.
shouldn't look that. I mean, yeah, if you want like white to look white because you're like tuning in the actual white balance, that's one thing.
Right.
But
Right.
you can have
Bruh.
you can have things like it's gonna look really orange at certain times of the day or really pink. And if you're
Right.
inside, you get different kinds of lighting, and it's like, do you want to keep it so it looks like the lighting did, or do you want like um, do
Exactly.
you want the skin tone to look perfect, but then if you have different lighting in the background, it looks weird because like if you're inside and then there's
Yeah.
natural light coming through a window behind you, and then you adjust so your skin tone is right, then the natural
Right.
light coming from behind you may look off, or may look kind of, you might, or vice versa, you might get like a green light because you're using combined lighting. Unless you go in and you can create like a mask over part of the image and adjust the white balance for the foreground and then separate for the background, which nobody's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Most people just click like an auto white balance or something.
Yeah.
That's the trick, though. It's like, what do you? So,
This one of me and my friends for Halloween. I'm seeing my friend and I'm laughing my butt off. Um, this one was straight out of the camera. I don't know what the heck happened. I don't know if it was just the lighting or what. This is from my
so
Pixel 4.
you have lights coming from above you, and then you have
Yeah.
harsh lighting coming from behind you in the window of light behind you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if the lens was a little dirty or something, you'll get that washed look.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was an okay picture, I guess. But,
You could fix
um,
it potentially. There's ways to
yeah.
fix that, but
Um, but I like, I like it.
sometimes it's just a memory. So even if the photo doesn't look, you're like, okay, it was blurry, but you can tell what all of us are washed out, but you can tell all of us were having fun. That's all that matters.
Right. Right.
That's the other thing, capturing the moment and not being like, oh shoot, where's my camera? I gotta turn it on and I gotta get the settings to the right thing and all that. Where you just pull your phone out of your pocket and snap real quick is, quite different.
What advice would you give somebody who's not into photography but still is trying to like take a good picture? What how would you tell them what would you tell them how to take a good picture, like what to use and what kinds of advice?
Zoom with your feet. So use the main camera on your device, because the main sensor, because it's always going to be the best. So
Hmm.
if you can get closer to something, um, that's always or take a few steps back. That's always a better option rather than trying to go to the wide lens or the telephoto lens. The main
Yeah.
is always going to be the better lens as far as like lighting and everything.
Hmm.
Almost always. I do have an exception to that, interestingly enough. The Nothing Phone 2A that I was talking about earlier, the ultra wide on that is pretty nice.
Yeah.
But they're using 50 megapixel sensors for both, and they're very similar sensors. So
Oh wow.
they're the way that that when they tune the post processing algorithm, it can be it the main sensor is still almost always better, because when you go ultra
Yeah.
wide, you can get distorted perspective stuff. Especially if you're
Hmm.
taking picture of people, you can get weird perspectives. But use the main one, and then focus on um, like angles of light to create separation. So um, typically, you want to stay away from light being behind the subject.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
if it's a person, you don't want them staring into the sun, because you'll get a bunch of people with their eyes closed or squinting.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and
I
then
had when I did those pictures of Solange that I showed earlier. Um,
so you
you know,
can
I
get what's called, you can do either like a 3/4 or a 2/3 lighting, where you have the light coming slightly from the side. and then it comes across the nose and creates a shadow on the one side or the other. So, but you don't want
Yeah.
it, too far to the side where then you have no nose and they have a flat kind of face. That's more of a portrait thing. For nature stuff,
Right. Right.
texture, light, um, sometimes color. But even during the winter when there's little to no color,
Mm-hmm.
texture is huge. So um, in order to get texture really well, you want light to kind of from the side. So you can block light with your body too. So you create
Yeah.
a shadow, and there's still light there, but then you don't have the harsh sun on it.
Composition.
Um,
I'm
and
reading.
so composition,
Yeah.
exposure, focus, and white and color balance. Yep.
What? And I want to actually ask you to use this for myself. Uh, when you're editing a picture on iPhone, what are the things that you should edit, um, as far as like exposure and stuff like that? Like,
So
should you go into everything and do a little bit of everything, or skip some?
it depends. So it's almost always easier to bring your shadows back up a little bit and bring in a little bit of light than if you go really overexpose. It's hard. So if you have like bright lights, you
Hmm.
can bring your exposure down a little bit when you take
Hmm.
the photo. So when you press and hold on the screen to focus, you can slide your finger down to bring the exposure down. So if you
Yeah,
have a bright,
I know what you're
bring it
saying.
down a
Yeah.
little bit. Look at your shadows when you're
Can do
capturing,
you mind?
and if your
Do you
shadows
mind
are
as
getting dark,
Yeah.
it can be okay because you can bring those back later. But if your highlights are really blown out, you won't get those back. You can
Do you
also
have any
snap two
examples?
photos and then and then go into like Snapseed and do a double exposure.
Mhm.
Um,
Do you have
so
any examples, or can you like walk us through that as your
yeah, let me go in. Let me find something here.
uh
This one
babe
might
Sherry, if
be
you could tell Jess that I'm still on. I don't know.
yesterday after. This was just after the solar eclipse. So I thought the sun coming in from the
Ooh.
side was really nice rays. But if I really wanted to go and edit here, um, then I'm going to go to adjust, and then I'm going to go to highlights, and I might bring those highlights down a little bit, so like the blue in the sky kind of starts coming back in.
Oh yeah.
And then shadows, I might bring the shadows up if I want to bring those up, or in my
Oh,
case, maybe I
yeah.
want more contrast. So I'm actually going to bring so here's where they started. I might bring my shadows down more actually. I'm going to go
Mm.
back to the highlights and adjust those now and see where I want. So original, and then I'm just making a little bit more contrast in there.
Oh
And then
wow.
I'm going to go to warmth, and I'm going to bring up the warmth just a little bit. And then I'm going to go to the blue tone. I'm going to bring those up just a little bit. I'm going to pop here. I like the pop filter.
Hmm.
Usually that gives it a little bit more contrast. I'm going to adjust it just a little bit there. Denoise is nice. Usually I bump that just a little bit. And then vignette I could do if I really wanted to bring. So you'll see
Ooh,
what
that
it's doing
that
there, and it's bringing
dude.
the middle. And then if I hit done and save that as a copy, so we have where like this right here, I wanted that way, where you get kind of the light casting over. But then if we go
Hmm.
to my edited image, um, you can kind of see there where it's got a little bit of those rays coming in, but the sky kind of came back in, and then the contrast in the ground here is just just subtle playing with light there. So I did that live, and I'm actually probably gonna post that photo in a bit here. Um,
Ooh, okay.
but I mean, you can also do things like I have this one of this flower. You go, you could hit HDR effect and adjust it on its own, right? And just use a preset effect. But I don't like to do that. I tend to go in, I'll bring my highlights down a little bit, bring my shadows up here. Um, Not a ton, just a little bit because if I bring them up too much, it washes out the background. You can see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just a little bit. Mm, increase the
Whoops.
kind of the pop, gives a little bit of a detail, quite literally pop. Like you can see it happen there. It brings the detail in on those flowers, on the petals. I just want just a little bit. And then I could do a vignette on it as well if I really wanted to. See, no
That's
vignette,
beautiful.
and then if I brought in a vignette, I could do that. I don't want the vignette on this, so I'm gonna hit done. I'm gonna hit save, save it as a copy, and that's what I ended up with. Kind of this. So it's simple stuff. The
Yeah.
one with my son, for example. Let's say I wanted to. Um,
Now, do you edit all your pictures, or do you just do point and shoots and
Shadow. I'm gonna bring the shadows down on a little bit, and then I'll answer that question in just a second here.
sure?
And the pop up on that, so it makes his hand. And sometimes I'll do it to the point where it almost looks like photorealistic, where you get like this not really what you wanted look. So in that case, when I tried to do vignette, it was trying to vignette more up this way, and I didn't really like it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save that photo, and then I'm gonna go here to the share icon. I'm gonna go to more, and then I'm going to go and open it in Snapseed. So that way I can do vignette and I can um, adjust the outer brightness, make the ring a little bit bigger on it,
Ooh,
adjust where it's doing it. I'm gonna bring it down just a little bit like that. Hit here, hit done, and then I had the original. So this was the original.
right.
Then I have the one that I edited in photos, and then the final result right there.
Wow, that's
And I
crazy.
Um, so um,
And
I
I feel like
tend
these
to not edit my photos if I can help it. I'll just leave them as they are.
yeah, yeah,
So what I'll do is I'll snap a photo and I will look at it immediately, and I will snap some photo. If it's my son running around, I'll snap a bunch of them. Not just a bunch in a row to capture him. Make sure I capture it, but like intentionally framing them certain ways.
yeah,
And then I will look at them right away. And if
right,
immediately I go, I delete it. Even if I think I might be able to edit it to save it a little bit.
right,
If as long as I
right.
see that, like, hey, I have other photos that I took that I'm happy with, I'll delete a photo that I'm almost on, that I might be 90% happy with, because I would
Right,
rather it come in, unless it's like, oh, it's just slightly off. And I can save it maybe with a slight edit.
yeah,
Or it's like
yeah,
I need a crop to get it. Like the one that I
right.
showed of the courthouse, I cropped
That's
because
crazy.
when you're taking a picture on your phone, you're taking in the 4:3 aspect ratio. Sometimes you'll get a lot of the foreground. So like you're at a
Yeah,
beach, you might get a lot of sand, or you
yeah,
might get, like in that instance, I had a lot of grass, so I cropped the grass out. So what that does is it kind of gives the feeling of pulling things forward because you're removing
yeah,
the foreground, so it kind of pulls you in closer. So if you have a building in the background, maybe you can't get close to it. Maybe there's a sidewalk you don't really want in the scene. Maybe you took a
right.
picture. You're out for a walk or whatever, and you're out there, and you took a picture of somebody that's ahead of you and you want them to appear a little bit closer because you
Right.
kind of waited to get them in like the motion of a step to capture
Yep.
that, but then you want to bring that closer, you can crop things out. So I
Right.
don't crop. I
Right.
don't crop to alter the story. I crop to bring the perspective in because I didn't want to use a telephoto
Absolutely.
because, for one, when you use
Absolutely.
a telephoto, you still are stuck with that aspect ratio, and like I said earlier, you can lose some detail there, or like at night it can be more difficult. So I'll take pictures and
Yeah.
then just bring in three. I want to see if I can find a photo real quick. So you know how earlier you said something, how I said something about that kind of old style look. So this is hard to
Yeah.
tell, but that's got it too because the light is coming from the side.
Ooh,
So I
that's
did that
crazy.
intentionally. Um, to get the light from the side. Let me see if I can find that
That's
the
crazy.
actual. There's another photo I wanted to actually taken with my
Ooh.
iPhone, I believe. I can tell you in a second here. Yep, it was taken with my iPhone, f1.8, 1 over 15, 6.8 millimeter ISO 2000, and that's the photo. And then I
Um,
have one of my son, where he's got kind of a funky look on his face. And then,
that's awesome.
like I said, don't be afraid to dial things in. So,
Right.
the light I brought back
Oops.
down a little bit.
Yeah.
But you have that halo effect around it, and then the light is white, so you're not gonna, see through it. That's not, you're not gonna be able
Yeah.
to see the light bulb because it's not like a clear light. Um, you know, and you
Right.
got, similar things going on. But then, you
So
know, with this, for example, these lights here are all going to be blown out and there's nothing I can do about it. But I would rather capture the detail and the shadows of like the Christmas tree down the road and stuff.
right.
So,
Right. Right. So going back to Hugo's question, what do you think is the best app for photo editing?
if you want free and you're editing on your phone, I like Snapseed a lot. If you're an iPhone user and you want to get a little bit beyond it, and maybe you have a MacBook too, uh, I like the Pixelmator apps. So there's those are paid. I think it's the iPhone one is like 3.99 or 4.99 maybe, and then the MacBook app I think is like $20.
Oh,
So if
damn.
you're gonna go beyond your phone, I mean, but if you think
Damn.
about it, okay, so you spend
Ah,
$25 right between two applications, but but like the really nice thing with like Pixelmator on your computer
mm-hmm.
is you can do some amazing things. So you can remove backgrounds from things really easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do something real quick here. Present screen share window. So I'm sharing my Pixelmator app so I can show people here real quick. So this
Sure.
is Pixelmator. This is a photo I took my one of the OnePlus Watch 2, and let's say I didn't want the background there anymore. Not the
Wow.
greatest example because it
Right.
kind of gets part of the hand weird. Um, but
That's
let's
crazy though.
say I can bring in insert photo. I'm gonna find. Let's
That's crazy though.
say just think of it. See if I can find something real quick here. Um, hmm.
I see you're one of those food enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um,
So real quick, if I can find. Well, okay. So here's one.
mhm.
I bring up. I'm gonna select this here. I'm gonna delete this. Let's say I didn't want the background on this, so I just click. Oh, it helps if I'm clicked on the right thing. Here we go. It's gonna remove my hand though. Um,
Oh, jeez. You need your
Yeah,
hand.
I need better examples. So you know what? Here, we're gonna do something. So I'm gonna trick some people's minds real quick here. So I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna do this one. I know it removed part of my hand. I'm gonna go into the image layer, and I'm going to we're gonna bring in the background. We're gonna
Ooh,
actually I'm gonna bring in like nope,
okay.
I want it like that, and then I'm gonna bring this here, and then I'm gonna hit S for styles, and I'm gonna drop a little shadow behind it. I'm gonna bring the distance to the shadow. I'm gonna increase the opacity a little bit, and I'm gonna blur it. And then I don't care about the hand. I don't want to see the whole hand. I just want to see part of the watch. Just show the watch.
Ooh, dude.
I'm gonna do something like that.
That's a thumbnail
And
right there, bro.
then I'm going to option, and I'm gonna scroll in. We're gonna move here. I'm going to um, repair. I'm just gonna touch up some things real quick there. Option, scroll out. Let's say I didn't. Let's say I don't want this mole on my arm. I'm gonna option and move over, and I'm gonna use this to move around because I got another mole over here I don't want. That mole I don't want. Option,
Damn,
scroll out,
that's
and then I'm gonna go into text. Do something like this. Shrink that. And then I'm gonna go copy that. This. Go here. Go
oh,
like
that's
that.
cool.
That. I'm gonna put a shadow on it real quick. I'm gonna move distance on the shadow. I'm gonna give that text a little stroke, but I'm gonna bring it down to 1. I'm gonna go back to text, and I'm going to increase the size of it a little bit. That. Bring that down. I need to decrease this size. Right there, and now I have a thumbnail.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And I took that
That's
photo of my arm with the iPhone, and now I can export.
that's cool. Well, man, I want to thank you
Just like
for
that, you've done something pretty, um,
yeah,
you know, pretty amazing for a thumbnail. Um, and in case people wondered, I literally just saved that to my desktop, and I'm actually going to. You probably will see that as a thumbnail,
right,
in a
right.
video fairly soon. And I mean, the other cool thing is like, so you
I,
have you have us in this what we're doing right now. Um,
mhm,
you could grab a screen grab of like my face, and you
mhm.
could drop the background out from behind me and move me, and then put like both, and then do the same thing with your side and put us both with whatever background behind each other.
Yeah,
And so like the AI stuff and the machine learning stuff with the
dude.
application, and then the
And
thing
that's a
is,
whole other.
you buy it once and you own it for a long time. So like I have had Pixelmator for like 10 years.
Yep.
So there's no subscriptions. Um don't buy subscriptions if you can help it. I don't use Canva because I don't like the subscriptions. I don't like the idea that you're paying money to some company for months and months on end. And even if it's a few dollars a month, that adds up. If you think about over the span of 5 or 10 years, let's say it was $3 a month, that's $36 a month. So every 3 years, you're talking about $108. So
Right.
that'd be something you could spend on something else. You could maybe get a book and learn and certain styles of photography or whatever it is. So,
Yeah.
d-
Well,
um,
man.
I would say my one word of advice to people
Hmm.
for photography is just get out and shoot. You can
Seriously.
only, I mean,
Seriously.
you
And
can't
right
figure it
now,
out
and
unless you do it, and just like you'll figure out your style. You'll figure out like things you like, and framing
right
is
now
really
is the
nice.
best
So
time.
like when there's trees, you can put yourself slightly behind trees and put them at the edges of the scene.
Yeah.
So you're getting like half of one tree and half of another, and have a scene in between, and you get framing. You can have arches that are created that do that, shooting through windows.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just figuring out what your technique is, what your style is. Maybe you don't like photographing people, so you photograph nature. It's a lot easier because you can manipulate that. You can kind of people are hard to control. Nature, you can kind of.
That is facts, man. That is
So
facts. Well, thank you again, man, for joining me tonight. It was really interesting, and like I said, you have great tips. You're into this kind of thing, and that's why I said I need to bring this guy in because you have a lot of knowledge, and I think right now we're getting into that season where you can go outside and take pictures and stuff like that. So I think um, this is perfect as far as that goes. So, if you guys are not subscribed, please subscribe down in uh, down there, wherever it is, here, there,
it's right
and
there.
subscribe to Michael as well. I'll have his links down in the description as well. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.